The twin moons have hung low over the sprawling city of, their pale light caught in the glass spires like trapped stars. Beneath them, the old market district was alive with the usual noise of barter and cruelty. Inside the house of chains, the air smelled of sweat, oil, and fear. Rows of alien servants, thin, silent, and marked by collars that blinked with control lights, stood on raised platforms. Each bore a tag of ownership, a name stripped away and replaced with a number. At the far end of the hall, in a private viewing box lined with red silk, sat Lord. He was human, and he was old. His hair, once the black of midnight, was now silver-white, combed back with precision. Deep lines carved his face, but his blue eyes were clear, sharp, and when they fixed on the auction floor, unyielding. His dark coat, stitched with silver thread, whispered wealth and authority with every movement. No one knew exactly why a human aristocrat had settled here, on a world where humans were rare and regarded as curiosities. Some said he was a retired fleet commander. Others whispered he had been exiled for reasons no one dared voice. Didn't bother correcting them. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to buy. The auctioneer, a tall with faceted eyes and a voice like cracked stone, tapped the control slate. Lot 47, it rasped. Female, adult, domestic labor trained, obedience rating compliant. They led her out. She was small, hunched, and wrapped in a threadbare gray shift. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light, pale blue with patterns that might once have been beautiful but were now dulled by malnutrition. The most striking thing, however, was her mouth. No teeth, not a single one. When she glanced toward the crowd, she didn't lift her head fully. Her eyes, large, silver, and clouded, flicked from face to face, searching for something she likely wouldn't find here. Starting bid, the auctioneer droned, 100 credits. His fingers drummed on the armrest. He had seen many slaves in his years on, but there was something in this one's posture, not the slouch of a broken creature, but the controlled stillness of someone waiting, enduring. A merchant in the pit raised a hand, 150. Another followed, 200. Spoke, his voice low but carrying, 500. This antennae twitched, heads turned. A human throwing around credits was always worth watching. The merchant scowled, 600. Didn't hesitate, 1,000. The hall went quiet for a heartbeat. Even the House of Chains regulars knew that was absurd for an aging domestic worker with no teeth, but no one challenged him again. The gavel came down, sold, lot 47 to Lord. The girl, no woman, was led toward his booth. She did not meet his gaze, only stood before him with her hands bound in front, collar blinking faintly. Studied her for a long moment, then he reached into his coat and a thin metal card, pressing it to the collar's control node. The light winked out, the collar loosened, dropping into her hands. A ripple of unease moved through the attendants nearby. Buyers didn't remove collars here. You're free, said quietly. Her eyes widened, confusion, disbelief. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but only a hoarse rasp came out. He rose to his feet, gesturing for her to follow. Come with me, you won't last long here without teeth, but I think I can fix that. They stepped out into the cool night air. The market sounds faded behind them. For the first time in perhaps years, she was walking without the weight of iron on her neck. But freedom on was never simple. From a shadowed alley, two figures watched them go. One of them, a broad-shouldered reptilian with scales, spat on the ground. That human meddling will get him killed. The girl belongs to whether he paid or not. The other's eyes gleamed. Then maybe we should make sure she finds her way back. They slipped into the crowd, following at a distance. By the time the alien woman reached his transport, she was shivering, not from the cold but from something deeper. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if expecting a hand to seize her again. Noticed, he didn't comment. Instead, he opened the transport door and motioned her inside. You have a name, he asked as the vehicle lifted from the ground. She hesitated, then spoke in a whisper. He nodded. It is, we'll get you food, a place to sleep, and then when you're ready we'll talk about the rest. Her eyes flickered with a faint, fragile hope. She didn't know this human, she didn't know why he'd spent a fortune to free her. And somewhere in the maze of underworld, there were those already moving to take her back. The transport's navigation lights cut through the fog as they vanished into the night. Far behind, a silent signal pulsed to life, marking their location. The transport skimmed over rooftops like a dark bird. Neon flickered below, steam rose from vents. The twin moons slid behind cloud and came out again, silver and cold. Inside, guided the craft with one hand and held a steaming cup in the other. He had made it at a stall as they left the market, a thick broth with herbs that humans barely tasted but loved. He passed it to. It's easy to swallow, he said, no chewing needed. Cupped it in both hands. The smell hit her first, clean, sharp, a little sweet. She lifted it to her lips and drank. Her throat twitched, her eyes closed. Slowly warned. She nodded and sipped slower. Warmth spread down her empty belly and into her chest. Something in her shoulders let go. Below, the alleys gave way to older stone streets, then terraces set with trees shaped into arcs. Slowed, turned, and set the transport down on a landing pad that sat like a balcony halfway up a cliff. Beyond it, the city fell away to a river of lights. The house was built of dark stone and glass. Its windows were long and narrow, its doors were wide. Stepped out, straightened his coat, then offered his hand. She hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm, warm, no shocks, no yank. He did not pull, he only led. Inside, the air smelled of citrus and paper. No collars hung on hooks, no chains, no keys on pegs. A lean gray service drone rolled up on three soft wheels, chirped politely, and extended a towel and a fresh gray robe. Its top plate bore a small engraved crest, two stars in a circle. Human design, old but kept in perfect order. "Thank you," Quinn said. The drone beeped once and swiveled toward as if it were a bow. "Welcome to house," it said in a soft voice. "May I draw you a bath?" Stared, she clutched the robe. Her fingers moved over the cloth, testing it as if expecting a fiber knife to be sewn into the seam. There was nothing, only softness. Caught her eye. "There are rules here," he said. "Only a few." She tensed. 1. No collars, ever. 2. Nothing that is yours can be taken without your yes. 3. If you wish to go, you go. No one will stop you. He let the words settle. 4. We eat together when we can. She swallowed. Her voice was rough, low. "Why?" "Because I'm old," said simply, "and I remember what happens when no one says those words out loud." Quinn slid down a hallway to a small, bright bathing room with opaque glass walls, watched her go jaw tight. When she was out of sight, he exhaled and turned toward his study. Inside, the room was all shadows and warm lamplight. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books and crystal cartridges. Along one wall stood a workbench with a compact fabricator, its print head sealed behind a shield. Beside it sat a medical scanner the size of a briefcase, a relic with polished handles and new wiring. Sat opened the scanner and ran a quick systems check, all green. He slid open a drawer and pulled out a thin case embossed with two letters, EDF. He didn't look at it long. He closed it, put it back, and instead keyed a query into his house net. The signal that had pulsed in the alley, he'd seen the reflection of it on a vendor's lens, a tiny blue wink across a glass bead. He traced the handshake. It matched a code used by mid-tier slaver clans. He traced again, slower, masked his trail with a loop that could fool most machine sniffers. A mark flashed, KARIK Guildhouse SERAT claim, RETAIND labor asset. An appended note, recovery AUTHORIZATONS, open. His face did not change, his eyes did, going colder. He sent two short messages, one to a name saved as Vellum and one to magistrate. He did not write long, he did not beg. He used legal numbers and dates and phrases that cut like chisels. When came back, her damp skin, faintly glowing with natural patterns, had a tray set on a long table near a window. The river of lights moved below. Steam rose from bowls of soup. A board of soft bread sat untouched. Stood just inside the room, her new robe tied loose. She held her hands at her sides, open, as if to show she wasn't hiding anything. "Sit," said, "the bread is for me, the soup is for you." She sat. Quince rolled in a pitcher of water and poured, lifted the bowl and drank without looking away from the old human. After a time she spoke. "You paid too much," she said. "I did," agreed. "Why?" He considered. "Because the price for a life is not the same as the price on a tag." His throat worked. "You will make me teeth," she said. It was not a question. It sounded like she was trying on a hope and did not know if it fit. "I will make you a set to start," said. "Not pretty, not perfect, but strong, and I will keep making better ones until you tell me they're right." Her fingers trembled. She pressed them down on the table to stop it. "Will come," she whispered. "They always come." "I know," said he, set his spoon down. "I need to scan your jaw, then I need to call in a few old favors. After that, I would very much like to hear your story, only if you want to tell it." He rose. "Come." They moved to the workbench, took the scanner, checked the warmth of the palette plate with the back of his knuckles, then raised an eyebrow. "This will touch your mouth," he said. "It should not hurt. If it does, I stop." Nodded once. He lifted the plate, set it carefully against her upper gums, tilted her chin. The scanner hummed. A 3D model bloomed on the screen, arches of bone, smooth where teeth had been cut flush years ago. Scar tissue showed as tiny ridges like frost. His jaw clenched. He did not comment. He saved the scan, then took a lower arch. When he was done, he held out a small mirror. "Look," he said, "nothing to hide, only the truth." She looked in the mirror. Her eyes were very bright. "You have strong bones," said. "Better than mine at your age, I think." He keyed the fabricator. On the display, the model split into layers, a flexible base to hug the gums, reinforcement ribs, tooth forms. He selected a resin he had meant for a different job. He added a powder that would make it harder, less brittle. He slowed the print head, less heat, less warp. "Humans call these dentures," he said as the machine came alive. But for you, I want to do something more. Tilted her head more. The Sing said, I have heard it on recordings, a woven sound part inside the mouth, part in the nasal passages. The slavers took your teeth because a bite frightens them. But the teeth do more than cut food, they shape sound. They give the tongue and the air something to push against. I will shape these so you can sing again if you choose. Froze, the glow under her skin lifted and fell like slow waves. When she spoke, her voice shook. I do not remember how, she said softly. It has been too long. Then we will remember together, said. The machine clicked. The first set cooled under a gentle fan, did not touch them until the readout said 30 minutes had passed. He polished a rough edge. He rinsed the pieces in warm, sterile water, dried them, and set them on a soft cloth like a jeweler showing a treasure. Top first, he said, you press up and back, it will feel strange. Then the lower, if it hurts, we stop, we file it down, there is no rush. Reached out with slow fingers. She lifted the upper plate, sniffed it, an old habit once useful for detecting tainted metals, and then raised it to her mouth. Her hands shook, she pressed it in, her breath caught. She touched her cheek, feeling the ghost of shapes under skin. Bite, said gently, showing her how with his own teeth. Not hard. She set the lower plate closed carefully, and then looked up at him with sudden, wild fear. Blinked, what is it? Swallowed, I will be punished for this, she said. It poured out like a secret that had lived too long in a dark place. The first time I tried to chew a rind from the trash, they beat my hands. They took my sleep for 3 nights. They said I am not a person who eats. I am a tool that carries and cleans. His face did something tight and small and dangerous. Then he smoothed it flat. He took a slice of soft bread, tore off a corner, soaked it in soup, and set it on the bench between them. You are a person who eats, he said. If any punishment comes inside this house, it will find me first. She stared at the soaked bread, then slowly she picked it up and brought it to her mouth. Her new teeth touched it, she chewed once, twice. Her eyes flooded. She covered her mouth with her hand and made a sound that was not speech. It was a broken thing, but it was music. Quince at the door froze and dimmed its lights as if to give privacy to something holy. Chewed again, she swallowed. When she spoke, the words were clearer, fuller. Thank you. Nodded once, he did not say you're welcome, he said again. They practiced a while, small bites, sips, careful chew and swallow. He showed her how to take the plates out, clean them, and set them back. When her jaw grew tired, he stopped, and they sat in the quiet with the river lights moving below. Why did they take your teeth? Asked, voice mild. Rubbed her forearm where the collar had rubbed a callus. The once ruled 3 valleys and a sky road, she said. We sang to build bridges, we sang to heal bones, we sang to name laws. She touched her mouth. When they came, they learned our songs, then they found they could not stop hearing them in their heads. The old ones among them heard guilt and fear and shame when we sang, so they cut the sharp sounds out of us, and then we could no longer shape the notes. His hands big and tightened on the arms of his chair. Monsters, he said softly. Looked at him in surprise. They do not call themselves that. The worst never do, said. A crisp chime sounded in the study, 3 tones, low to high. His head turned, Quince rolled closer to the entry camera. Perimeter ping, the drone said, voice suddenly all business. Stood, show me. The window glass darkened and became a screen. In black and white night vision, 3 figures moved along the cliff path toward the lower gate. 2 were the reptilian kind, new thick scales, forward shoulders. The third was taller, wrapped in a heat-damping cloak. They carried quiet tools, a loop cutter for steel, a spray for cameras, a soft hammer for hinges. Recovery authorization, Quince said. Packet contains false court stamp, source spoofs the third circle. They'll try the gate, see it's smarter than it looks, then go for the service conduits, said almost to himself. He looked at, do you want to run? Stood, her new teeth a pressure against her gums that felt like a promise. No more running, she said, surprising herself, but I cannot fight. Then you don't, said. You keep behind me, and if I say into the wall blue weather, you walk through the door that opens and go straight until you feel warm air. You will find a shaft, climb. When you reach a hatch with a circle of stars, stop and wait. Do you understand? Nodded once. Lifted his cane from where it leaned by the desk. It was polished black wood with a silver knob. He twisted the knob and the cane hummed. He pressed his thumb to a tiny recessed circle. The hum deepened into a purr that vibrated the skin. He looked like an old aristocrat about to take a walk. He looked like something else, too. He took a small from a drawer and handed it to, wear this. She slipped it over her wrist. He tapped it, and a faint field shimmered around her skin like heat above a road. Shield, she asked. Only against the first cut, said. It will buy me 1 extra second. He faced the window, Quince house to gray. The lights shifted, mellowing and lowering. Panels in the walls glided open. Small, old devices woke short, ugly cylinders with wire loops, a set of flat discs that could be thrown by finger flick. Moved through the room with a calm that was too practiced to be false. He was not exiled for a scandal, could see that now in the neat efficiency of his hands. He had done things like this before on worlds far from here under different flags. The three figures reached the gate. They unpacked the loop cutter. It glowed a little as it bit into the steel. 2 minutes later, the bar fell. The tall one went still, head tilted, listening to something only he heard. He signed to the others. They slid the gate, slipped through, and came up the garden path like shadows. Did not meet them at the door. He stepped out onto the balcony above, leaned his elbows lightly on the rail, and looked down like a man stepping outside to enjoy a late wind. "Good evening," he said, voice mild. The three froze. The tall one looked up. "Lord," he said. His voice had that false politeness the cruel use when they hold a knife. "We have authorization to recover a asset." "I have authorizations of my own," said. "Filed, stamped, sealed. We can have that argument in court in the morning. Tonight you're trespassing." "We don't prefer courts," the tall one said. He smiled. His teeth were metal. "We prefer the work." He flicked his hand. The two scaled ones rushed the stairs. Spoke the house, blue weather. A seam opened in the study wall behind. Warm air touched her back. She looked at the dark shaft and then its stance. He did not look back at her. He did not tell her again. He lifted the cane, thumb resting on the trigger pad, and waited as if he were bored. Stepped backward once, twice. The shaft's warm breath tugged at her robe, then she stopped. She turned forward again. The two scaled enforcers hit the lower steps and came up fast, heavy feet thudding, set the cane's tip against the railing. The tall one drew a slender rod that hissed. His breath sought in her throat. Her new teeth felt large and strange and oddly steadying. She took the and tapped it twice. It hummed. She did not know if that would matter. The first enforcer reached the top step. Moved, so small a movement it was almost nothing, and the cane's head kissed the enforcer's chest. A sound like a giant bee cracked the night. The enforcer flew backward, hit the steps, rolled, and did not rise. The second lunged, pivoted, not quick like a young fighter, but clean. The cane came down across a wrist. Bones popped. The rod fell, kicked it off the balcony with a neat tap, and it tumbled into the garden and cut a hedge in half. The tall one flicked his hand again. From the cloak, a short dart leaped forward, silent, needle bright. Moved without thinking, she stepped into its path. The flashed, the dart hit the field and skidded sideways. It nicked his arm and stuck into a chair instead. Her skin burned where it touched. His head snapped toward her, his calm cracked for the first time that night. "Inside," he barked. "Didn't go." A thin, ugly smile creased the tall one's face. "Good," he said, "brave little tool." He threw another dart, swept his cane out and caught it in midair. It sparked and died. "Leave," he said, voice like iron. "Now." The tall one's smile widened, and then in one smooth motion he reached up and pulled back his hood. His breath stopped. He was not scaled, not reptilian, not. He was of her people, tall, skin luminous, patterns bright. His teeth, though, were knives of metal set into gums that had been cut and cut again. "You sing?" he asked softly. He spoke in the tongue. The words felt like home and poison both. "Do you remember the lost songs, the mercy songs, the songs that take the fear and turn it back?" His whole body shook. "Who are you?" she whispered in the same language. The words tasted right in her new mouth. "Once," he said, "I was archivist of valleys, now I am's collector." He raised his hand. Under the skin of his wrist, lights crawled. "I was sent to bring you back," he said, "because there is a code hidden in your skin that you do not know you carry." Lifted his cane again. "What code?" he asked, voice quiet. The tall size flicked up to the human. "The map," he said, switching to trade tongue, "to a vault your earth once built on our world, full of tools and truths you swore you would never leave behind." He smiled, sharp and cruel and angry all at once. "And now, old man, you have bought the key." The garden lights went out. A second team moved in the dark. Darkness swallowed the balcony. The only light left was the faint shimmer of shield and the silver glow of the tall's patterned skin. Somewhere below, boots pounded on stone. His voice cut through the black, calm, precise, "Behind me." She moved, but her eyes stayed locked on the metal tooth. His patterns pulsed faintly, not random but rhythmic, like a song she almost recognized when she thought she'd forgotten forever. Shifted his stance, cane angled low, listening to the sounds below. "They'll try to come up both flanks," he murmured. "Two teams, quince pattern 7. In the dark, the house clicked. Panels along the outer walls slid open and something small rolled across the balcony, brushing his robe. A moment later, metallic pops echoed down both sides of the cliff. Screams followed, short, wet, and cut off. The tall didn't flinch. He studied like a predator sizing another. "You don't even know what she carries, human." "I know enough," replied. "No," the said softly, stepping closer. They don't either. If they did, they would not sell her in an open auction. That mark on her back, it's not decoration, it's a vault seal. Ancient earth science woven into skin. It hides coordinates, keys, the things they fear most." His heart thudded. She remembered the mark, an oval pattern high on her spine, half faded. She thought it was just birth pigment, nothing more. Didn't look back, you're saying she's a living data core. More than that, the replied, she's the last. The others were burned out, skin flayed, pigment stripped, the code lost. She's the only map left. Below, more movement, this time the hiss of climbing lines hooking to stone. The jaw tightened. Quince, send alert to code black. The drone's voice answered instantly from the study, sent. The tall tilted his head, gaze flicking to. You can walk away from him, he said in her own language. Come with me, I'll keep you alive long enough to unlock the map, then you'll be worth more than any chain. His throat went dry. His words were smooth, tempting, but his teeth, his eyes, his posture all spoke the same thing. She'd be another tool. I'm not a map, she whispered. He smiled. You've always been a map, you just didn't know where you led. Before could answer, the lower door exploded inward. 3 more shapes surged in, these not scaled, but armored in dull plating, each carrying a shock staff that crackled with blue light. Moved, his cane struck the railing, releasing a burst of sound that made his teeth ache. The armored attackers stumbled, clutching their ears. In the same motion, he drew a short, flat pistol from inside his coat and fired twice, low to the legs. 2 went down screaming, the third raised a staff. And moved before she knew she would. She'd been a carrier, a cleaner, a silent shadow all her life, but she'd also been watching. She remembered where handlers kept their weak points, where the control bands sat, how to slip between strikes. She darted forward, caught the staff mid-swing, and twisted. Her new teeth clenched hard, her flared once as the attacker shoved her back, but her grip didn't break. Stepped in, striking the attacker in the temple with the silver cane head. Armor dented, the figure dropped. The tall had not moved. He was smiling again, metal teeth gleaming faintly in the dark. Impressive, he said too, but you'll need more than that. The know now. They'll burn your skin to ash to get the code. And you, she shot back. He didn't answer. Pointed the pistol at him. Last warning, leave. The tall's eyes narrowed. For a moment thought he might attack anyway. Then he stepped back toward the balcony edge. You'll come to me, he said to in her language, when you realize he can't protect you from all of them. And then he was gone, dropping backward into the black, caught by a waiting line that whisked him into the shadows below. The only sounds left were the groans of the downed attackers and the quiet hum of the around's wrist. Lowered his pistol, inside now. They moved quickly, Quince locking down the balcony as they entered the study. The drone scans arm where the dart had grazed her. Mild paralytic, it reported, dissipating. Poured her a glass of water, voice steady. That mark on your back, how long have you had it? Always, she said. Then we'll find out what it's hiding, said. But first, we're going to make sure you live long enough to decide what to do with it. Outside, the city of glittered, indifferent. Somewhere out there, the metal-toothed was already planning his next move. And deep in the slaver districts, the guild had just learned the same thing he had. Was more than a freed servant, she was a key. The storm rolled in from the river by dawn, bringing sheets of fine rain that blurred the city lights into smears of color. His house sat high enough on the cliff to catch the wind, and the long glass windows trembled softly in their frames. Stood at one of them, robe pulled tight around her. Her reflection looked strange to her now, no longer the toothless shadow she'd been for years, but someone with shape to her mouth again. Someone whose face no longer matched the voice in her head that whispered property. Behind her, study smelled faintly of hot metal and citrus oil. The workbench was covered in tools and open cases. The small medical scanner from the night before sat beside something new, a broad, flat device with a flexible screen that pulsed faintly with a grid of light. Sit, said without looking up from the panel he was calibrating. She turned. You mean to read it, the mark? I mean to read it before anyone else does, he said. You told me you've had it since birth. Yes, she said quietly. I thought it was family sign. My mother had a smaller one. She never spoke of it. That's consistent, murmured. Earth tech embedded in skin would pass from parent to child if the genetic trigger was active. She frowned. Earth tech, you humans put this in us. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was careful. Not me, not my generation. The Earth Defense Fleet had allies in the old days, your people among them. There were vaults, places we swore to keep safe together. Then the war came. Then people forgot. His fingers tightened in her robe. My people didn't forget. We just weren't allowed to remember. Finally looked at her. Then let's take that memory back. He gestured to the chair by the workbench. She sat. Quince rolled in and extended a small tray of sterile wipes. Let guide her forward until her back was to him. The robe slipped from her shoulders, exposing the oval of faint, interlaced markings high on her spine. In the gray morning light, they looked like old ink blurred by time, but up close they shimmered ever so slightly as though they were catching light from inside. Ran the scanner over the area. The image bloomed on the flexible screen, her skin in luminous layers, each a different wavelength. As he tuned the filters, the blurred oval sharpened into geometric patterns, circles within circles overlaid with a branching network of lines. That's not writing, murmured. No, said, it's a lattice. What does it mean? He adjusted the focus until the smallest lines came into view, microscopic filaments of altered pigment cells, each aligned like the strands of a data crystal. It means your skin is holding something very old and very precise. The display began to resolve the lattice into a map, a star chart but with markers that pulsed in sequence. Leaned forward, those points their real places. Yes, said, his tone darkening. And that, he pointed at one pulsing glyph, isn't just a location, that's an access signature, one you couldn't forge if you tried. Looked over her shoulder at him. So if I walk into this place, it will know me. It will unlock for you, said, and no one else. Her mouth went dry, that's what. That's why everyone, he said flatly. The rain outside thickened, turning the glass into running sheets. Somewhere in the distance, a low, deep sound echoed, too regular for thunder, turned toward the window. What is that? Froze mid-adjustment, landing craft. Quince's voice cut in sharply, perimeter ping, multiple inbound, aerial signature matches assault skiffs. How long, asked. 3 minutes. His pulse jumped, we can run. No, said sharply, they'll have air cover. The only way we walk away is if we make them think killing us is too costly. He moved fast, closing the scanner, pulling a small case from under the bench and tossing a flat, dark vest. Put it on. It'll spread a stun hit over your whole torso. Struggled into it, and you. He tapped the silver knob of his cane. I'm wearing mine. The first dull thump shook the windows as a skiff's landing jets engaged on the cliff pad, turned to Quince. Pattern 12 and bring up the lower emitters. Lights dimmed, hidden panels in the floor slid open to reveal squat, ugly projectors. They began to hum, the pitch rising until it was just on the edge of hearing. Met's eyes, when they come in, stay low. If you get a clear run to the service shaft, take it, but don't stop until you're 3 blocks into the old quarter. What if you're? Don't wait for me. The front door blew inward. The first wave of enforcers stormed in, 4 of them, all scale-armored, rifles raised. They didn't see the floor projectors until the hum peaked. Then their armor crackled, joints locking as if invisible chains had seized them. Electrostatic net, murmured, old trick still works. He stepped forward and swung the cane low, taking one off his feet, then pivoted to catch another in the gut. The net field bought seconds, not minutes. More were coming through the door, and these had insulated gear. Ducked low as ordered, but her eyes caught movement on the balcony above the main hall. A tall shape stepped into view, long-limbed, luminous patterned skin glimmering even through the rain. The metal toothed. His voice cut through the chaos, aimed straight at her. You can't keep running from what you are. His head snapped up. Inside, he barked. But didn't move, not toward the shaft, not toward him. Something in this tone, in the pattern of light moving over his skin, held her rooted. It was a cadence from a song she didn't remember knowing until now. And then, like a blow, the memory came, her mother's voice, low and urgent, singing in that same rhythm the night before they took her away. The same rhythm burned into the mark on her back. The vault wasn't just coordinates. It was a song. Her knees went weak, the room around her blurred into noise and motion. The metal-toothed smiled like he'd seen the realization in her eyes. Now you understand, he called over the fight. You're not just the key, you're the voice. Dropped the last of the front wave with a brutal sweep of his cane and turned toward her, eyes sharp. What did he mean? She swallowed hard, the map, its music. His face went still. Then they don't just need your skin, he said grimly. They need you alive. Another explosion ripped through the side wall, more forcing their way in. Smoke poured in. The tall leapt from the balcony rail, landing light on his feet as chaos swirled around him. And realized she was now the most valuable and most hunted being on. The smoke rolled through the breach in the wall, curling low and thick across the floor. His house AI cut in with a warning. Structural breach in East Wing, hostile units advancing, secondary perimeter compromised. Didn't look up at the ceiling speaker. His focus stayed on the metal-toothed who now stood just inside the hall, the rain dripping from his luminous skin. His heart pounded. She could hear the fighting outside, the thud of boots, the snap of energy discharge, the heavy whump of grenades muffled by stone that were surrounding the house. She said, voice tight, we can't stay here. That's the idea, he replied. His eyes didn't leave the tall, but we're not running blind. The tall one smiled, all metal edges. You've already lost, human. I've called off the strike on this wing. They don't care if I walk out with her as long as she arrives breathing. You, however, he tilted his head. They don't care about it all. His fingers clenched at the vest she wore. Why not just take the coordinates? Why keep me alive? You still don't get it, the tall said. The vault won't open to a stolen map. It needs the voice that matches the code, your voice. That's why they never destroyed all of you, just enough to make you harmless, until now. His tone was dry, and I suppose you're offering to be her savior. The tall one shrugged. Better me than the guild. I'd see the vault opened for my people. You'd see it locked away forever, wouldn't you? Didn't answer, he simply twisted the silver knob on his cane. A soft chime echoed and the house lights flickered once. Didn't understand until she heard other sounds beyond the house. Engines, heavy ones. The tall smile faded. You called in help. His voice stayed even. I called in debts. The wall to the west shuddered and split as a low, broad craft forced its way into the courtyard, a battered police enforcer skimmer, its sirens muted but its side doors open. Figures in gray armor dropped from it, their insignia marked with the sigil of the magistrate's guard. Through the smoke, a deep voice boomed, "Forces, this property is under immediate magistrate protection. Drop your weapons." The in the breach hesitated. They hadn't expected the guard to risk this kind of confrontation. The guild's bribes usually kept them away from anything that smelled like a slave dispute. The tall didn't drop his weapon, he stepped closer to instead. Protection will only last until the magistrate sells you out, and he will. Moved subtly, placing himself between and the intruder. You have 3 seconds to walk away. The tall one's eyes flicked past him, settling on. For a moment she felt something like recognition, like he was searching her face for a memory. Then his expression hardened. Next time, girl, we finish this next time. He moved like liquid back through the breach and into the smoke. The magistrate's guard surged in seconds later, their rifles leveled and visors down. Quince rolled forward, projecting a blue legal seal into the air. Property owner, court stay authorized, removal of individual named prohibited until hearing. One of the guards glanced at, "That'll hold for now," he said, "but they aren't going to just file the paperwork and walk away." "I'm aware," replied. The guards began clearing the remaining from the grounds, their boots thudding in rhythm as they moved room to room, stood near the workbench trying to calm her breathing. When the immediate danger was gone, turned to her. "We don't have time to wait for the hearing," he said. "If that vault's coordinates are real, it's not safe and you here, we move first." Blinked, "Move where?" He tapped the flexible screen still showing the star lattice. "There, the nearest marker is 2 days out in the Outer Valley Range, remote, hard for the guild to mass forces there." "You mean to go to the vault?" she asked. "Yes, before they take you," he said, "and before someone else tries to open it without you." Her stomach nodded. "You don't even know what's inside. It could be nothing, or worse." His gaze was steady. "If it's nothing, we make sure no one dies chasing it. If it's worse, we destroy it. If it's something worth keeping, we decide who gets it." "We," she echoed. "You and I," he said simply. Looked down at her hands. Her fingers still trembled from the fight, but deep in her chest, something steadier was starting to grow. The sound of engines rose again outside. The magistrate's guard were pulling out, leaving the house in uneasy quiet. Closed the scanner, secured it in a hardened case, and handed it to. "You carry it. If I fall, you keep moving." She looked up sharply. "You think they'll come after you before me?" "They'll come after whoever's in their way," he said, "and I've been in their way for a very long time." Quince rolled forward, extending a small compartment. Inside sat a folded cloak, dark and water-resistant, with a hood wide enough to shadow her face. "You'll need this," the drone said. Straightened, listening to the fatting sirens. "We leave in 10 minutes, travel light." She looked at him. "If you hear anyone singing in the pattern he used tonight, don't answer." The way he said it made her skin crawl. The rain outside was easing. Somewhere out there the tall was still moving, still hunting. And now so were they, heading toward the vault and the truth she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. The city of shrank behind them, its spires fading into the morning haze. His transport hugged the low road, skimming just above the cracked pavement as the cliffs gave way to rolling scrubland. The air smelled cleaner here, carrying the scent of dry grass and distant rain. Sat beside him, the hardened case with the scanner on her lap. She kept glancing over her shoulder, half expecting to see a skiff sweep down out of the clouds, but the road behind them was empty so far. Size stayed forward. "They won't follow us with a big force right away," he said. "Too visible, too many questions from the magistrate, but small teams, that's their style." Pulled the hood of her cloak lower, and the tall one. His jaw tightened. "He's not, he's on his own track, which makes him more dangerous." They drove for hours, the city replaced by abandoned farm terraces and the skeletal remains of wind towers. Once, thought she saw movement on a ridge, a flash of metal, but didn't slow, and when she looked again, the ridge was empty. By midday, the road ended at a rusted gate half swallowed by vines. Beyond it, a narrow track cut between steep rock walls. A weathered sign in faded script warned, "Unstable ground, entry forbidden." Keyed the transport's manual mode and guided it through. The walls closed in, the light dimming until they emerged into a wide basin surrounded by jagged peaks. Stared at this place. Glanced at her, you've been here before. No, she said slowly, but it feels right, like the song in my head fits the shape of these hills. He set the transport down on a flat ledge and killed the engine. We walk from here. The scanner says the nearest coordinate is under that ridge. He pointed to a dark seam in the stone half hidden by scrub. They disembarked, boots crunching on loose rock. Quince hovered behind them on quiet wheels, projecting a map overlay in soft blue light. The wind was sharp here, carrying the hiss of shifting sand. As they approached the seam, felt the back of her neck prickle. The closer they got, the more the rhythm of the valley seemed to match the cadence she'd heard from the tall, the same pattern her mother had sung. Well, she began. He held up a hand, I hear it too. It wasn't loud, just a faint hum, almost like wind through a hollow bone. But it was organized, notes, beats, a song without words. They reached the seam and found a narrow opening, barely wide enough for one person to slip through. Inside, the air was cool and dry. The rock walls glistened faintly, streaked with mineral lines that caught their beams. The passage twisted and dropped, leading into a wide chamber where the stone gave way to something else, smooth, curved walls of a material that was neither metal nor rock. Stepped forward and laid a hand on it. It was warm. The patterns in her skin brightened, reacting to the touch. Was beside her in an instant. It's keyed to you, he murmured. A line of light traced out from where her palm rested, splitting into curves that formed the shape of a doorway. A low tone vibrated through the chamber, so deep she felt it in her bones. The door slid open. Beyond was a corridor lined with strange panels, their surfaces etched with symbols in both curves and old Terran block script. Dust lay thick on everything, but the air was still breathable. This is it, said softly, a joint vault, Earth. They stepped inside. The lights, dim but functional, followed them, winking on in sequence. The corridor ended at a round chamber dominated by a raised dais. In its center sat a crystalline console shaped like an instrument, with strings of varying thickness stretched across it. Stared, it's a harp. Not exactly, said. He touched the scanner to it, but the device only gave a dull error tone. It's locked, needs the activation sequence. His breath quickened. She knew without being told what that meant. The sequence wasn't a code she could read, it was a song she would have to sing. She stepped forward, her hands trembling. Before she could try, the sound of boots echoed down the corridor behind them. Spun, cane in one hand, pistol in the other. They found us faster than I thought. A voice answered from the shadows, of course I did. The tall stepped into the light, flanked by two armed figures in scavenger gear. His metal teeth caught the glow like knives. His stomach dropped. I told you, girl, he said in her language. You'd come to me, now play the song. Moved between them, she's not playing anything for you. The tall one's gaze was cold, then I kill you first. He raised a slim, curved weapon, one that hummed like the vault's door had. His mind raced. If she sang, the vault might open, but it might also give him whatever was inside. If she didn't, would have to fight three armed opponents in a confined space. Her choice would decide whether they lived through the next minute. The tall's weapon purred with an almost gentle menace, the curved blade vibrating at a frequency that made the vault walls hum. His scavenger escorts fanned out, cutting off any retreat to the corridor. Stayed between in them, weight balanced, cane ready. If you think you can walk out of here with her, he said evenly, you haven't been paying attention. The tall's lips peeled back, flashing those terrible metal teeth. I have been paying attention, human. That's why I know you won't risk her life in a fight, and that means you're already beaten. His pulse thudded in her ears. Her gaze drifted to the crystalline string console at the center of the dais. It was as if it was watching her, waiting for her voice to wake it. Why, she asked, stepping sideways to see him past his shoulder, why do you want this so badly? His answer came in their shared tongue, smooth and bitter. Because the vault holds the songs we were, lost songs, bridge songs, freedom songs. My people will never be whole until they have them again. His voice cut like steel, and you'll hand those songs to the in exchange for a seat at their table, won't you? The tall one didn't deny it. Survival has a price. His mouth went dry. If the vault held what he claimed, the songs could rebuild her people, or enslave them further if twisted by the wrong hands. And here she was, the only one who could open it. Leaned just enough to speak low to her without taking his eyes off the enemy. If you sing for him, you'll lose everything, but there may be a way to sing for the vault without giving him what he wants. She blinked. How? The songs are layered, murmured. I saw it in the map lattice. There's an overlay pattern, a second voice. I can feed the missing tones through the scanner into the vault system, mask the rest. It might give us enough control to lock him out. The tall stepped forward, impatient. Sing now. His fingers flexed slightly at his side, the signal. Moved to the dais. The console's strings gleamed faintly as she approached, and a low harmonic rolled through the floor. She placed her hands on the outer frame, closed her eyes, and let the rhythm she'd heard since childhood rise in her chest. The first notes were quiet, uncertain, but the console responded immediately, strings vibrating in sympathy, lights blooming across the walls in cascading arcs. Behind her, she could hear the tall one's breathing quicken. Knelt at the base of the dais, his hands working fast on the scanner, matching her pitch with an artificial counterpoint. The overlay tones slid into the vault system like a second shadow. The song swelled, felt it in her bones, in the patterns of her skin. The memories in the melody pulled at her, images of bridges of light, of voices carrying across valleys, of Terran engineers laughing with her people in sunlit courts. And then, buried deep, another image, a sealed chamber within the vault, marked by both the circle of Earth's stars and the spiral glyph of Law. This is the heart, the song seemed to tell her, guard it well. Her eyes opened. The console's strings were glowing now, the sound resonating so strongly the air shimmered. She saw glance up at her, giving the smallest nod. She shifted the melody just a hair, dropping one note, bending another. To an untrained ear it would sound the same, but the vault heard the difference. A deep chime rang through the chamber, the dais split, revealing a central pedestal. On it rested a single crystalline sphere, its surface swirling with shifting light. The tall's eyes lit with hunger. Give it to me. Rose between them, you'll have to take it. The lunged, his blade came in low, aimed for ribs. The old human caught it with the silver head of his cane, the vibration shuddering up his arm, but he held firm. With his other hand, he fired his pistol point-blank into the scavenger to his left. Snatched the sphere from the pedestal. The moment it touched her hands, the song inside her flared, urgent, commanding. She knew then that the sphere wasn't just a container, it was a seed, a fragment of shared Earth creation that could rebuild the lost knowledge or erase it forever. The tall smashed his shoulder into, knocking him sideways, and reached for her. She stepped back, clutching the sphere to her chest. You say you want freedom, she said in their language, but you've already sold yourself. His face twisted in rage. You think you can keep it from me? No, she said, I'm going to keep it from all of you. Before he could reach her, she sang again, this time a short, sharp phrase the vault seemed to recognize. The pedestal's top snapped closed like a trap, locking her hands outside of it. The sphere melted into light, flowing down into the dais and vanishing completely. The tall one froze, realizing what she'd done. No. Was back on his feet, his cane cracking hard into the side of the knee. The metal-toothed figure staggered, snarling, but second strike, low and brutal, put him down. Move, barked. They ran, the vault lights flared behind them, the doorway sliding shut with a final, resonant note that echoed up the passage. By the time they reached the transport, the sky over the basin was darkening with approaching skiffs, gunned the engines, lifting them into the cover of the peaks. Only when the city was hours behind them did finally speak. It's gone, she said, the sphere, I sent it back into the vault. Glanced at her and locked it. She nodded, with a song no one else knows, not even me, not until it's time. For a moment there was only the hum of the transport, then smiled faintly. Good, that's how it should be. Leaned back, the patterns in her skin dimming to a soft glow. She wasn't a servant anymore, she wasn't just a map, she was a voice, one the chains couldn't silence. Somewhere out there the tall would recover, they would still hunt her, but she had allies now and she had a choice. His voice was quiet but certain. We'll keep moving, and one day when the world's ready we'll open it the right way. Looked out at the stars rising over the horizon, and until then. His eyes met hers. Until then we make sure no one sings the wrong song. The transport banked into the night, leaving the valleys and their secrets behind. For now,